Hello. I hope you can all hear me. It's the first time I'm doing this, so I hope this will be okay. Yeah, I'm actually in Sweden, so it's not my normal background. It's an Airbnb we're staying at the moment, and we are looking for a flat or a house. But yeah, in this video today or in this live, I hopefully have some questions from you. But if not, I made a little structure what I want to talk about since I moved to Sweden, to Stockholm. So I basically will tell you why I moved to Sweden and also how I planned the move. I made some notes over here. And I also want to talk a little bit what are my future plans, especially financially. What does it look like? And I compare it probably a lot with London, just because that's where I used to live in the last 10 years. So I can really compare it with living in London. And the last point I want to talk about is the cost of living. Someone asked about this. Hello, Disco Saki. Basically, yeah, I will just talk a little bit, what the cost of living in Sweden is, especially in Stockholm. Only really what I know from research and from the 1 week I was living here now. So it's just 1 week. But I think it will be really interesting to see my perspective compared maybe to people who live here for months or years. And this video could be really interesting to see what it is at the very beginning, you know? So yeah, this is just a friendly chat, you know, so it will be me just chatting. And although I do make all these videos, it still is really weird to talk to myself live. So, but yeah, I hope you will enjoy it either way. So let's start with the first question, why I moved to Sweden. So as I mentioned, I've been living in London for the past, almost 10 years actually. And then also Brexit happened. That was such a long process. I mean, when the decision was made, it was horrible. And now it actually happened. It's even worse. So that's definitely a big reason. But also, I've been living in London for such a long time that I wanted to change, you know, and because I actually come also from another country, I'm originally from Germany, as you maybe can hear, and you probably read also my channel name with a German accent. So I'm originally from Germany and I've lived there pretty much, well, until I was 26, I think. And then I also, no, actually, I moved to Vienna and studied in Vienna, although it's also German speaking, so I don't know if that counts. I'm also have to basically have the skill to read your comments. From James Henry, as somebody who lives in the UK, Yorkshire, I don't blame you for leaving London. I've only visited London twice in my life. I'm 26 now. Yeah, London is another world, isn't it? It's full on, and especially I think when people move there from, well, let's say smaller cities or even countryside, it can be absolutely crazy. So I understand, and I think I reached that point as well, that I've lived there. I was young. Hopefully I'm still young, but I partied hard. You know, it's London is really awesome for that. So and now I do have a kid, and maybe that probably plays a part of it, I would say. Because it's so busy all the time, even when you move out a little bit further, you know, zone, I don't know. Well, to be honest, I always lived in zone 2, so I guess I never went out. But it's always busy. And when I visited friends, like, wow, London is so busy no matter where you go. You don't even have to be central, and it's busy everywhere. That was my impression. And so Brexit, cost of living. So that's an interesting one, because I will compare Stockholm with London when it comes to cost of living a little bit later. So I wouldn't say, spoiler alert, maybe there's not a massive difference, but there are different aspects which the cost is different, basically, London and Stockholm. So when I wanted to leave London, I wanted to also leave because I found it very expensive. The housing was really expensive. I have to say, I was always renting, so I didn't belong to those homeowners. And I know you normally pay a mortgage, you pay normally less, but you have a big upfront cost, and then it depends on what kind of property you have, what kind of ongoing costs you need, repair costs and that stuff. So I've watched a few videos as well where people like compare renting with buying, and everyone has their own opinion, I think. So a few people joined as well. So hello, Shadow, Gary, and Nate. Good to see you, or to read you better. Expensive picnics in the rain too. Aha, yes. That was that's a friend of mine who comments there, because we had our leaving due in the rain in London. It's also a bit typical for London, isn't it? So I guess London was just crying that we're leaving. So and I did mention I have a kid, and kindergarten is one big topic where I thought it's absolutely unbelievable. I made a video about the cost of living in London, and I mentioned it there. That is so expensive. You nearly pay £2,000 for a full-time spot in a kindergarten for one child. That is often one salary, so should you even work? So that's a bit crazy. Hi from Dubai. How's your stock profile doing? Yeah, I need to do another live about my stock profile. It's doing actually really great. Like, despite what's happening at the moment, I'm not worried. So these are the reasons, really. So a few personal reasons, really. I mean, everything in life is really personal. You can't really say that sometimes you leave because of objective reasons. I live my life. I'm in my 30s. I have a kid. I have been living in London for such a long time. I'm sure pandemic also plays a role. The last year and a half, actually, it was pretty quiet and pretty different. So probably it didn't matter too much where you lived in the world, although Sweden did it differently, as you know. And as I already feel it is different. It doesn't feel too much like there's a pandemic going on, but obviously it has their positives and negatives. So let's talk a little bit about number 2, how I plan to move to Sweden. So basically, what actually happened was that I wanted to move. My partner wanted to move. We wanted to move somewhere in the world. Germany was on top of our list because I'm from Germany, and it would have been nice to maybe spend some time in my home country together because he has never lived there. And then also our daughter could, go to German kindergarten. So it was on top of the list. My partner then decided to just spread his wings and looking for jobs everywhere in the world, really, Germany included. And then this job also popped up in Sweden. So long story short, I don't want to bore you with it, but we got a job offer. Well, he got a job offer, not me. And he got several job offers in other countries. And then I started totally researching about what it is like to actually live in Sweden and work in Sweden. And I fell in love with, I'm an insights analyst, my job is research. So I just loved it. And so then I said to him, why don't we move to Sweden? It's kind of random. It was really random. We never thought we would move to Sweden. And then we made a decision, and we had 2-3 months to actually plan everything. Luckily, I have to say, we had his company to support us, to give us some guidance, to answer questions. But I also joined several Facebook groups. So there's Brits in Sweden, expats in Sweden, so from all over the world. I'm from Germany, so there's also Germans in Sweden. Actually, quite a few Germans, which I learned. Germans love Sweden. Well, I'm now one of them. So yeah, and these Facebook groups are so useful. They discuss everything, a lot of bureaucracy and like many things. And then you can also ask questions. For me, for example, one of the things I still have to figure out, but I'm like trying to find some information about it. I'm still working for a UK company, so I have to figure out how I can stay with them, maybe as a freelancer or a limited company, something like that. I say limited company is very specific for the UK, but just to give you an idea what it could look like. Oh, and haha, was it easier to go to Sweden than, let's say, Canada? Canada was actually on the list as well. It came quite late, so we kind of had an opportunity. I tell you one thing, I didn't research as much as Sweden, but one thing which really shocked me was that you have 10 days of holidays, and in Sweden you have 30. And we were looking for a better work-life balance. So that's definitely also one reason. But Canada is beautiful. And I watched some videos from Canadians living in Sweden and Stockholm and all over Sweden. And they actually compared it with Sweden, the landscape, and said is similar. So that's quite cool. Well, that would have been fun had you come. You could have met our 10 kids. Yes, that's true. But you never know. I mean, I always wanted to visit Canada. So that's definitely on my list. And then I will ask you for some advice where to go. Yeah, 30 days of holidays. So if you want to move to Sweden, here's one reason. I think it's 25 to 30. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff you have to organize when you move to Sweden, and Brexit really, really made it hard, very hard. So impossible. We don't even know if we get our stuff. I will update you what happens, but it's not easy. We are still in, like, they picked our stuff up, but we're still in contact via email. We have to provide still some documents. We thought everything was sorted. So I don't know if it will happen. That's probably not a good thing to say here, but maybe I'll leave it in the comments down below when I publish this video what happens, so you know. Yeah, and then housing. There's almost no way to find anything before you come to Sweden. We actually had friends here, or have friends here, and they kindly looked at 2 houses for us. And yeah, long story short, it didn't work out. And now we're still looking for housing. This probably another part I can talk about when you come from abroad, how it works to find a flat. That's a big topic, I think, as an expat, because it's not that easy maybe than in London. I think London has so many houses, but they're also so small. So they probably have like 1 building, 6 flats, and here you just have that 1 building. I think that's how it works. So it's at least my impression a little bit. How many holidays so you get in Canada? Oh, Nate, you can have a conversation with this Kusaki. Are you planning to move to Germany in the future? I don't know. I mean, I always keep everything open. I could never say no, but obviously we just moved to Sweden, so not in a very near future, I would say. We at least stay here a year. I hope much longer. It depends if we love it here, if everything goes well. You never know that either. So, but it's not a definite never. So maybe. And maybe. Do you know French as well? If yes, can you teach us? Oh, no. As a German, I should actually speak French because we have it in school. Like after English, it's second foreign language. But I was actually so bad at English that I was scared of French. So I never had it. So I can't speak any word. So sorry. I can teach you German if you want. Feierabend, my favorite word. Let me know if you want to know what it means. So basically, where was I? Cost of living, how I plan to move. Yeah, housing. I was talking about housing. It's complicated, but I read so much about it. I feel like really prepared. The standard is really, a lot of people say there is a list you have to be on, and Swedish people are on the list almost from birth, so very, very early on. So when you go up the list, at some point you get like a flat, and it is not expensive, so it's a good price. So that's why people do it, and I can understand that this is very attractive because you don't pay much. And if you actually consider that, I would say cost of living in Sweden is probably quite low, or lower than maybe expected. But that is an option which is rarely available for expats, unless you maybe have contacts. But I haven't really read anything that would work either. So how it really works is that you rent. I mean, you can obviously buy a house as well, but getting a credit in Sweden is probably quite hard if you haven't lived here for at least a few years. So you might want to pay cash. Then in Stockholm, you have to be quite rich, I would say. But outside of Stockholm, if you go up north, I have seen people buying houses for £30,000 or even £200,000, which, if you really compare that with London, I'm sure there's obviously out of London, it's maybe similar prices, but let's say it's possible, right? So and you just have to rent, and that can be quite pricey. So renting can be quite pricey. It depends where you want to live and what kind of property you want. Do you want an apartment? Do you want a house? So for us, we want a house because we got used to live a little bit to a garden in London, which is also very rare, I feel, sometimes for London. But yeah, we had a garden and we loved it. The flat was pretty small, we just had 2 bedrooms and a living room, kitchen combined. So it was not really big. But we paid a lot of money. I think we paid £1,950 plus bills. So that's what you can imagine for London, the price when you rent in zone 2. And in Sweden, we're looking for a house, and we find kind of really big houses, with 3, 4, 5 rooms sometimes, and a single house, and for the same price. So that is quite expensive for Sweden, for Stockholm. So I think a Swedish person, when I asked my friend, I don't know if they would pay it, as a Swedish person. But because we come from London and we pay the same price for, I don't know, maybe double or triple the space, we are excited. So we haven't found anything, but we have looked at some stuff. We have seen some prices. So that's kind of what it looks like. And people who rent sometimes rent out the property to others. So it's a very crazy system. And you also have to be aware of scams. That's what I read. Houses are getting quite expensive in Canada, especially in Toronto and Vancouver. Oh, zones. Yeah, what are these zones I'm speaking about? Yes, so basically we have zone 1, which is kind of central London, zone 1. And then you have zone 2, which is around it. So we have here zone 1, then zone 2, then zone 3, 4, and it goes up and up and up. So, and zone 6 or so is really far out. And in London, it takes you, I don't know. It depends if you have a good kind of connection, with the underground, then you could, could take you 45 minutes, but sometimes it takes you 1 hour or longer to really get into central London. So it takes quite a while, I would say, depending where you go. So yeah, it's basically the regions. So these are the zones. And yeah, so I will keep you updated, obviously, about housing. We haven't found anything yet. We just have looked at a few things. But as I mentioned, we might actually have a bigger space for the same amount of money we rented in London. And what are my future plans? So we are 20 minutes in. I don't want to make it too long, but future plans, especially financially. My channel is all about, financial independence and like saving money, making money. So Sweden is maybe not like the fire countries I talked about, which was, no, watch the video. I don't tell you, you can watch the videos. So Sweden would be maybe not number one because people don't think about Sweden as a cheap country, right? But I mentioned it earlier already, there are a few benefits, and one is, for example, kindergarten. I believe it costs about £150 per month for a full-time spot in a kindergarten. And that's, for me, mind-blown. I mean, I don't even know why it's mind-blown, because it's the same in Germany. So in Germany, you don't pay that much either. But I have lived in London too long, and obviously I had my first, my only kid there so far, and what I paid for it was just absolutely crazy. No, it's not for a private school. It's just a normal kindergarten. Like I think all kindergartens are not actually from how do you say, the government is not taking care of it, so it's all kind of private. Probably that's why kindergarten is free here, but that is you send them to. Okay. Actually, that's interesting to hear, because I read a little bit in Canada. It has similar prices to London. Public school. Okay, yeah, public school is different. So school is free in London or in the UK, and unless you send them obviously to a private school. But kindergarten is, let's say, is all private. So there's no real public. You get some fundings when you are when you don't earn enough, or below the minimum or the minimum. So there are certain criteria. But as I mentioned, I would probably spend my whole salary on kindergarten. So it doesn't really make sense. Even if I'm a full-time working mom, I would spend my whole salary on childcare. So something is not right with that system, I would say. Homeschool, yeah, I mean, that's brave. Being 24/7 with the kids, homeschool. I think that's, I've never really, in Germany, I wasn't really familiar with homeschooling. I'm sure there are some parents doing that. I think it's also getting more accepted, I would say. But yeah, I don't know much about homeschooling, so I haven't really considered it yet. And also, I would say, I read a lot about the Swedish schools, kindergarten and schools, and they have really, really good reputation. So I don't even know if I should homeschool my child now living in Sweden, when things look a bit more promising. And also, the very nice thing is that they start school actually from 6 here in Sweden, and in the UK is from 4. My assumption is that you just can't afford kindergarten for 5 years. Let's say when they go to kindergarten from 1 to 6, that's 5 years of paying. It's better than to just pay until they're 4, and then I can go to public school, and then you don't pay basically all that money. So that's crazy. 6 kids that are homeschooled. My respect. I can't even imagine that. I mean, I just spent the whole day with my daughter today, and it's lovely. I love her, but it's tough, Oldest daughter's 14. She wants to continue to be homeschooled throughout high school. That's great. She must enjoy it then very much. Homeschooling is great, I think. You have so much more liberty. You can really, I feel like you can, we talked about this, Nate, a little bit in the comments on my videos and stuff. Like what they teach in school is sometimes it's so old school. No one needs that anymore. A level of basic level of, education, history and that kind of stuff is cool. But yeah, it's crazy. Hello, Patricia. Thanks for joining. So back to my future plans. So I always wanted to kind of go in that direction of freelancing. So now I will probably keep my job, but as a freelancer or, as a self-employed person, which is actually really great. It's kind of like my client. And then I have YouTube and all my side hustles. So I'm currently looking into a limited company in Sweden. It's called AB here. And I haven't really found much information online on YouTube. So that is maybe something I will talk about as well. It will be obviously very Sweden specific, but hopefully people who want to move to Sweden, can learn something from it, because it is very unknown for me. Like I found that limited company in UK was pretty straightforward, and quite, I actually had limited companies. The only not so straightforward for me was the accounting part, and I outsourced it. And if you don't make enough, then yeah, it's a bit a pain, basically. But I don't want to talk about that now. Okay, don't ask me. Looking forward to a trip to Nuremberg next year. Hopefully, they usually hold the German Shepherd Sieger show there. Oh, I didn't know that. But yeah, Nuremberg is really beautiful, very beautiful. I've been there as well. I've been to the Christmas market. And Christmas market in Germany, it's kind of like, it's amazing. You probably know. So that will be my plan, and I will update you on how that is going. There's definitely a lot I have to figure out how that all works in Sweden, not being employed but self-employed. And yeah, I did mention that my partner obviously has a job. So he is really, I don't know if you have heard that Sweden is, paying a lot of, as a Swedish citizen, you pay a lot of taxes. We will see how that really looks in reality, but we looked it up online, and it looks like if you're employed, it's still okay, actually, because your company pays part of your taxes. So we have to see how that really looks once we get the paycheck. But so far it doesn't look too bad. But another level for self-employed people. So we will see how that works. Have you watched any clips of one of the many YouTubers vlogging about being an expert in Sweden? Many. But Stefan Taran, maybe. The name doesn't ring a bell at the moment, but I will look that up, actually. There is one. Is he an American guy? Because I know that is one American guy who's vlogging about Sweden all the time. You know what? I always found that there's not enough people talking about Sweden. If you really want to move to Sweden and you just want to know everything about Sweden, like, you scan YouTube for every single video. I don't know if you feel the same if you ever move to another country. I've never done that before. I moved to Singapore once. Didn't watch a single video about Singapore. But Sweden, yes. Is salary much different moving to Sweden from London for your partner? That's a good question. So basically, Salaries are good. Like you definitely earn a decent amount of money. But well, I would say it's almost the same. Maybe London is a tick higher. I feel like London is very competitive, so you can really play your cards. And so London, you might earn a little bit more in London, actually. From what I have seen, from what my partner's experiencing now, but we will see how that really translates in living, because that's more important, I feel, what your expenses are. Then it doesn't even matter if it's the same or if it's a little bit less. So we will find that out. I mean, the first week I can't actually compare, because we felt like we are on holiday and we went to restaurants and we just enjoyed ourselves. So the first week, I don't want to compare that, because we spent quite a bit of money. But we deserved it. We didn't have a holiday for like a year or so. Yes, how's transportation system? Oh, so far it's great. We haven't even used the underground yet. I visited before the pandemic, actually, and it was so easy to get everywhere, and it felt like in no time compared to London. And so far now, in this 1 week we are here, we only used a bus, and it was great. We can pay with an app. We can look up where we need to go, and the buses are so clean and nice, really. So far they have been on time. So I haven't, I'm quite impressed, let's say that. So hopefully that it stays that way. And money wise, I would say it's okay. I wouldn't say it's cheap, but it's also not expensive. Yes, Stefan is one of, where was I? The American vloggers vlogging about life in Sweden. I also recommend Jonathan Rollins. He's a comedian who during the pandemic started listening to Swedish classic songs. Ooh, that sounds very niche, very interesting. I will check that out. Thank you so much, Anton. Our family moved 400 kilos away and are still in the same province in Canada. Canada is big, isn't it? Canada is very huge. I would definitely check him out. Thank you so much. Great recommendation. So where are we? We are 30 minutes in, and I'm already talking kind of about cost of living. Compared to London, we have houses and apartments. I mean, I mentioned that in my cost of living in London video on my channel. But London is expensive, and even when you buy your own place, I feel, and I'm saying that basically also coming from Germany, the apartments are really small. They're so small, and there's no storage space. I don't know if you can relate, if anyone lives in London. It's very small, and that it's okay, I think, when you are single maybe, and you don't need much. I mean, I should always stay in minimalist, but our Airbnb is definitely not a minimalist. He has a lot of books, but it looks really lovely, actually, this Airbnb. So it's a big difference, and I mentioned that already, that we probably get something much bigger here. And once we have found a place, I can also show you around, and then maybe kind of compare it with our London flat to give you really a good example. And I feel that would be probably a good example, even a generic example, because I saw my friends' flats and they all look lovely, but I still feel most of them are still quite small, and it's okay, because you live in London a lot, not anymore, but in younger years you live either in zone 2 or one, quite central. So zone means quite central. One is super central. And that's okay when you're younger, but when you start a family, you do want more space, or you just realize you just want more space. Who wants more space? And the language, because that's another reason why we actually never considered Sweden, because we were like, well, we don't speak Swedish, We only ever really considered English-speaking countries to move to, like Canada. Germany, okay. Germany, we only considered because I'm from Germany, and my partner actually could have used that opportunity to learn German. That's probably gone, but maybe I try to teach him better. I mean, we are together almost 10 years, and yeah, if he's listening, he knows. But yeah, so surprisingly, I did my research as well. How much do you need? I mean, we all know that Swedish people can speak English really well. But do you actually need to speak Swedish in Sweden, and especially in your work life? Did my research, and also obviously my partner, who's British, who only speaks English, got a job, and it happens a lot. I would say, especially he works in the film industry, so that industry has a lot of also other people from around the world. But yeah, they speak English in the office and collaborate with other companies around the world. So English is really their language. Actually, I have a friend who works at H&M, and she told me it's quite a while back that they also have a few colleagues who are from America or other countries, so they also speak English. So obviously, I'm not having a job here in Sweden, but I probably wouldn't need one if I wanted to look for a job. It depends, obviously, what kind of job you're looking for. I listened to some people who struggled a little bit and said they can't find a job because they don't speak Swedish, but this is more like, especially in like hospitals or, in the medical area, where when you talk to, as a nurse, for example, when you talk to patients, you really need Swedish to communicate with people. Or if you want to work in shops or restaurants, it depends. Like, I think a lot require you to actually speak Swedish. But yeah, tech kind of companies or IT companies, or what I do, like research companies, that's mainly in English. So there's really no problem, like if you ever want to consider moving to Sweden. Thank you. This was so much fun. You don't seem nervous. That's good, because I was nervous. 3,400 square meters. I think that's 350. That's big. That's definitely big, because we looked at houses with around 100. So it's like triple the size. I heard driver's license are incredibly hard to get in Finland. Is this true? Don't know about Finland, to be honest. And we will find out very soon about Sweden, because my partner is going to do his driving license in Sweden. So we will see how that works. I don't know if it's similar to Finland, to be honest. But yeah, I can report back and let you know once we have started that process of getting a driving license. Yeah, I think, we are 38 minutes in. That's a good amount to talk about Sweden, my first week in Sweden, which I already told you was like a holiday. But now the life starts. It's getting serious. Have you noticed any big differences in fashion, architecture, social behavior compared to London yet? Or anything else that seems different or perhaps even weird? Yeah, so a few things, I would say. First thing, especially my partner mentioned, everything looked so modern and clean. I mean, we're coming from London here, don't forget that. So that was the first impression. It was just beautiful. I mean, maybe we are obviously really excited, and maybe we see things differently, but yeah, it looks very beautiful, very clean. We are here in summertime, so that definitely helps. We moved in June. That is probably, you know what? One weird thing is that I read a lot that Swedish people are very reserved, and it's kind of hard to to connect. And then we're walking down the streets and we're saying hey to everyone, and everyone is really kind. And I mean, maybe it helps to have a child, and maybe she's really cute, and people are literally looking at her and waving and like asking questions about her. We even started conversations with random people, waiting for a takeaway, for example. And then we looked at houses. Obviously, maybe it's also different, but they were so kind and so chatty, and we felt the first impressions were really good because we felt really welcomed. One guy even said, you don't even have to learn Swedish, because everyone speaks English. It's fine. Don't even learn Swedish. By the way, I want to learn Swedish, so it's just exciting. And I tell everyone, who has maybe a doubt and thinks like, oh, I will never learn the language properly. It doesn't even matter, because learn a language because of your brain, because it keeps your brain young, it keeps your brain, wired, and it helps you to fight dementia or, Alzheimer's. So that's reason enough to really learn a language. And even if you don't need it, it will help you to just stay healthy. So yeah, I would say the first impression was really, really, really positive. Fashion-wise, haven't seen that much where I'm like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, fashion, obviously, I haven't seen anyone looking bad, basically. But I also know that Swedish people are, really good with fashion. So I have to. I mean, the only thing maybe I thought is maybe I stick out because I'm not, I don't look Swedish fashion-wise, So, but no one has looked or said anything. So I just, I'm at that age where I don't really care that much. So we just bought a farmhouse moving next month. Nate, you're nailing it. You're showing off here. we should move to Canada. What are we doing in Sweden? Will you keep this live stream up or delete it off? No, I will put it on my YouTube channel. Yeah, so hopefully it should be there. I've heard in some Scandinavian countries you need a winter license as well as normal summer license, and it can be dangerous on driving conditions. Yeah, we will find that out. Which makes sense, to be honest, because winters, really need to be prepared. We don't, want to risk anything. Maybe you talked about this already, but are you in the city or countryside? I'm in the city. I'm in Stockholm. So that's where we are going to live. And I'm sure that's a difference to the countryside. But I have to say, already we looked at a house yesterday, and it was about 45 minutes, I would say, on the bus from central Stockholm. And it felt like the countryside for me. Like maybe countryside people would disagree, but it was so green. There was just single houses. It was so quiet. It was right by the sea. So for me, it's like countryside, really. I have both, which that's really attractive for me, living in Stockholm. As well, that you have the possibility to be quite close to everything you need, everything you want. You can obviously, when pandemic is over, go to theater, cinema, meet up with friends central and go for drinks and then obviously do lots of stuff with children. So yeah, I feel like we're probably going to live in the countryside in Stockholm. So that would be interesting. I don't think you really have that in London. You really have to move out of London to be in the countryside. Yeah, it's going deep in the conversations here. So, guys, I think I'm calling it a day. I think I have said anything and everything about Sweden so far, what I know, and hopefully I have answered your questions. And do let me know if you want to see another live, because I don't know, I think it was fun. So make sure to subscribe. And I will see you very soon. I hope I don't say bye, because there's another question. What are people's attitude about the pandemic quarantine there? You don't see it much, but you don't have any big events. So some things are closed actually. But you don't see it so much when you go into a shopping mall or in a shop, although they limit the numbers of people who can go in the shop. The restaurants, we have, because also it's summer, it's really good. We have been mainly outside. So people are outside a lot, and there's a lot of space outside to sit as well. So you don't see much on the public transport. In London, it was mandatory that you wear a mask, but here you don't need to. It's a recommendation, and you see most of the people are not wearing a mask, to be honest. So, but yeah, it feels okay. Like, it doesn't feel, people are rebellious. It doesn't feel dangerous. Again, they don't have any bigger events where they, a lot of crowd, a lot of people, a lot of crowds are together. So I think it's okay. I think they're so far dealing it quite well. We see if we get COVID-19. No, we don't. Okay. Would enjoy another live stream. Thank you. Thanks for the update. It was a good chat. Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming live. Landlords, thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I see you soon. Bye.